Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester. Panhandle Outdoors, your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Winston Chester. Glad to hear this morning. Got a great show lined up. And our weather is brought to us by Haney Technical Center. It's getting cool. It's going to be a high today of only 65, but low tonight is 41. And we got cold weather coming. Listen, the water temperature dropped 1 more degree, so it's down to 69 degrees. And it's going, I say within the next week or two, you're going to see it dropping even more. Now, it's going to be the marine forecast is odd. It's coming north-northwest this morning, but it's coming straight out of north tonight and tomorrow night at 10 to 15, so not a good day to be on the water. Our river readings, take a look at our river readings. The Apalachicola Bluntstown, it's been leveled off now for about 3 or 4 weeks. It's right at 2.1, not a lot of up and down movement on that. The Choctawhatchee at Carabville, same story, just a straight line all the way across. It's at a 2.8 and not moving much at all. The tide chart brought to us by Kent Forest Lawn Funeral Home and Cemetery. Their motto is when carrying counts, and they're located right here on 23rd Street. Looking this morning at a low tide at 10:57, and it's coming in all day. It's going to be a high tide right around midnight, about 12:02. All right? So that takes care of our weather. We'll take a break and be right back with our guest. All right, welcome back, and welcome Captain Ken Parramore.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Glad to be back.
Good to have you back. Y'all been on a little trip, hadn't you?
We did. Last time I was on, I was leaving the morning of, and went to the Carolinas, Great Smoky Mountains, Cades Cove, Maggie Valley. The third year in a row, my wife and I have done that, and go to see the leaf change and the wildlife during this time of year, and it capped the trip off that Friday night, Saturday morning when we came home. It started snowing.
Oh, you got to see everything then, didn't you?
We did. We saw elk and deer, a bear, and I'd only seen snow once in my life before that. So that was the second time in my life I'd ever seen it snowing. So it was a good 4 days. We stayed moving and did a big loop up through the mountains and the park, and had a great time.
Then your wife took a lot of pictures?
She took 1,300 pictures. And we drove about 1,300 miles.
I saw the elk. Didn't you see some elk?
The elk have been reintroduced into the park years ago, and they've established. And right outside the main entrance is where we saw them this time in the afternoon. Right at the main entrance to the park outside of Cherokee, there was probably 20 to 30 head out there, and everybody was on the side of the road taking pictures of them, and the park rangers were there keeping people from approaching them, but you could take pictures, and it's awesome to see them in that part of the world.
Wow, so, I'm looking forward to going to see it too. I've heard.
And the Cataloochee Valley is another part of the park that's over towards Maggie Valley. They're over there too, and but they range all through outside of Cherokee. They've got crossing signs on the roads up there now, like we have deer crossing. It's elk crossing, so they're ranging in and out of the park there as well.
Well, I think they'll do real well up there.
It's something to see.
Well, years ago they said that originally they were a part of that era.
Right. They were. A lot of them were. A lot of their states in the east over here, and they got wiped out. But they're back.
Well, that's great.
That's
great. Talking about Thanksgiving is 2 weeks from today.
And that's another thing that's hard to believe.
That's hard to believe.
And it seems like as soon as we get there, the end of the year just comes, and Christmas, and then we're done. I mean, for some reason, it seems like it goes faster. And I know it doesn't. It goes no faster than any other time, but it seems like when we get this time of year, it flies.
Wow.
I guess everybody's so busy.
Yeah.
But the hunting is on the
everybody's hunting. Today. We got a tickle. A lot of people always still go squirrel hunting that first weekend in November, really out of tradition, but actually squirrel season opened on October 16th, but not many people went, but the majority of them went that opening weekend.
I remembered back, I think it was a year ago, that the commission, we moved squirrel season up, and it caught people by surprise, but then like most of us, you revert back to what you remember, and I didn't realize it had opened that early again. You always figure it's the first weekend or second weekend in November, and lo and behold, squirrel's been open now a month.
Yeah. That's right.
Haven't heard much about it, but a lot of it's weather dependent too, and traditionally they you know, they start in November, so a
Yeah,
lot.
it's really too warm to go squirrel hunting in October.
Right.
Not many
Right.
people went. I kept looking out for. I got just a handful of pictures compared to this past week.
And I think the logic with our commission was back when it changed or got moved up, we have plenty of squirrels.
Yeah.
And there's no reason not to give the opportunity to make people wait another month if there's an abundance of squirrels and it doesn't affect their cycle, you know, at all by hunting them in October. So that's why we ended up the way we did with it. So yeah, it's been open.
Okay, and what else we got here?
I want to remind everybody that we're still in archery and crossbow, which is two seasons that overlap. So on private land, you can hunt with a crossbow during archery season and with a bow during crossbow season because they encompass the same amount of time. The only thing difference there is you have to have, if you're hunting with a crossbow now, you have to have a crossbow permit. Mm-hmm. And if you're hunting with a bow now, you have to have a archery permit. And then of course there's a muzzle loader later on after Thanksgiving. I think in early December there's several day muzzle loader. Mm-hmm. And then of course we'll roll into this crossbow and archery season will end the day before Thanksgiving, that 4-day we've traditionally had. So they'll be hunting of some shape, form, or fashion from now through February, for deer particularly. But also a reminder, when we do the gun hunt at Thanksgiving, it's also the doe week, the doe days have changed. So the Saturday and Sunday of Thanksgiving, following Thanksgiving, mm-hmm. in Deer Management Unit 1, we call DM1 and DM2, which is divided by I-10 to the north and the south. There's 2 doe days. There'll be the Saturday and Sunday of Thanksgiving weekend. Mm-hmm. That's the first part of it. And then later on in December, there's 2 more doe days for DM1, and there's a few more than that in DM2. So it's really key to look at your regulations or call our offices or go on our webpage or find one of us, because we're just now getting used to talking about the change. But
right.
The Thanksgiving weekend, both zones, doe days are Saturday and Sunday following. So we'll open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Mm-hmm. The Saturday, Sunday is when you can take does.
Okay.
During the Thanksgiving gun hunt.
Okay. All right, let's take this quick break and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. So here with Captain Ken Parramore talking about all of our rules and regulations and all the other tips we can do. But before we get back to Ken, I have one email and one picture we want to show you. So let's go ahead and read this. Hey, Coach Chester, I enjoy watching your show and all the information you share. One thing I appreciate is encouragement to do things centered around family. Last week in October, the Aubrey Carroll clan from Holmes County was able to spend the week at St. Andrews State Park. The flounder did not cooperate. Most of the speckled trout were undersized, and the wind blew really hard a couple of days. But this trip was about family, and any fish were just a bonus. From ages 2 to 69, we had a blast, and I thank God they were all able to get together and enjoy the great outdoors together. I'm attaching a picture of the family. Keep up the good work, and God bless. And that's the essence. I told them this is the essence of the outdoors experience right here. The Aubrey Carroll clan. They all camping down there. All had a great time, and didn't do a lot of. But
that's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about.
It's all about.
And I know you've experienced it, and we've experienced it. And, and that's exactly what we're talking about. Just getting outdoors and doing things with family.
And when you get that many of them, they scatter all different directions, and everybody's doing different things, and the kids are having a ball, and it's good to see.
Yeah, that's good.
It is good.
Okay, let's get back on some of the FWCs.
We got to do some more. We got to keep on the hunting track because that's what's going on now, and it's we still have confusion with the antler rule, the new antler rule. I'm going to go over it again because I think we need to. It's even got some of our officers confused at times, but we're pretty much getting there now in understanding it. The first thing is in DM1, which is all the land south of I-10, the deer antlers have to have at least 2 points on one side. That's at least an inch long. Mm-hmm. it applies to archery and crossbow hunting. So the traditional spike, your spike buck that's over 5 inches long is not legal in DM1 during archery, crossbow, or gun season unless he has 2 on one side. North of I-10 in DM2, Deer Management Unit 2, he has to have at least 3 on one side or 1 main beam that's 10 inches long. So if it's a spike with a beam that's under 10 inches but over 5, he's not legal. That's a change from the traditional archery hunting from years ago when antlerless or antlered, it didn't matter which one you took.
Yeah.
If you took a buck less than 5 inches, he was considered an antlerless deer and was legal, or anything over 5 was legal. So now we have restrictions even during archery and crossbow. CWD, chronic wasting disease. We need to talk about it. I know a lot of people, and I hear about a lot of people that go north, they go west. They're in states like Colorado, Illinois. There's a slew of states, I'm thinking there's around 18 of them now, that are considered CWD states as far as the law goes in the state of Florida. And it's not lawful to bring deer back from those states into our state unless they have been processed with no bone, no brain material, no spinal cord material. So essentially, and that includes elk. Essentially, any deer brought back from those states, and we have a whole list of them, they have to be boned out. The antlers need to be cut off of them, and if it's for a mount, the cape, they have to be caped and the horns cut off. You just can't bring back the head with a cape on it because you've got spinal cord material and brain material.
Yeah. But now you can cut those antlers off and clean it out real good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, and of course if you can find a taxidermist up there or you know how to cape one, it needs to be caped out, and then they'll cut the antlers off for you, and you bring back essentially the hide, which is the cape, and the horns, and they'll mount them. But just to bring the head back, and it puts a lot of our taxidermists in a spot because they show up at their front door, and they know they're not supposed to be that way, but they also don't want to not, turn away business. So some of them call us. It's not to get the person in trouble that brought them, but they don't. See, if we do an inspection at a taxidermy shop, and because they're required to tag all their specimens in their freezer, and we find a head in there from one of the CWD states, and it's been brought by somebody, and it still has the material in it, we've got something that we're bound to do. I'd rather do it educationally on the front end, but it's real important not to bring that back because it's really detrimental to our deer herd, or could be, and it could wipe out a deer herd. It's a neurological deal that deer get, and they transfer it to each other through nose-to-nose contact, and that material, we just don't need it introduced. So CWD is really important. It kind of gets on the back burner in people's minds when they go hunting and they kill a big buck, and
that's the last thing you think of
and then let's just cut the head off and you skin it out behind the shoulder. You got plenty of hide to go get it mounted, and you show up in Florida as a taxidermist shop. And so anyway, CWD is really important. Hunting and management areas is it's kind of different than hunting on private land. Just about every management area has its own set of regulations, and they're usually area specific. So whichever area you're planning on hunting, if it's public wildlife management area, you need to know which ones and what those rules are. The general stuff is the same, but like wearing orange, it's required on public lands, not on private lands. But it's a good idea to wear hunter orange, on private land as well. Quota permits, during the times when they have their hunts, a lot of their hunts are quotas, and you have to apply ahead of time and have a quota permit. You have to have a wildlife management area permit to go on those lands where On private lands, it's a hunting license and a deer permit if you're hunting deer, or archery and crossbow and muzzleloader. So management areas, just a word there is they are different, and anymore you just can't show up and walk off and go from your truck into one if it's not established that way in rules, like where you enter, if it's a quota. You know, management areas are just managed differently, so I wanted to remind everybody of that.
Okay. All right, we're going to take our final break and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Here with Captain Ken Parramore. Let's look at our fishing game forecast for today. Brought to us by Mark Coward of Edgewater Beach Realty, 832-6000. Time 4:50 this morning to 6:50. That's a good time. And this evening from 5:12 to 7:12, right around dark. So it'll be getting good. We were talking off air about the bears. You say you get calls just about every day, huh?
It's unbelievable the amount of bear complaints that we're receiving, and we've been getting them now throughout the summer and the fall. But every day there's 2 or 3, it seems, a day that we channel out to our officers and/or our biologists, depending on the problem.
Yeah.
But and we realize that there is bears that are problematic in neighborhoods.
Yeah, and you have hot spots in areas,
right.
You're saying, and then.
And this time of year, as most people know, they're gorging themselves on acorns. Of course, then they become used to garbage cans and dumpsters, barbecue grills, bird feeders, and they're opportunistic, and they'll feed on it because they're getting ready for what we call their winter. And it's not the true winter for bear hibernation, but they do have it. The main thing with what we try to tell people is we can't do everything for all the bears that we have in these places. It's just impossible. They come and go during the night, but what we start with is try to educate people on leaving garbage cans accessible, dumpsters at like housing projects and places where there's dumpsters full of food behind restaurants. We had one behind a restaurant in Mexico Beach that was in a dumpster habitually. And if they lock those up, the waste management people will work with them, do everything that we can do to prevent them from getting around, because people are concerned with their safety, and rightfully so. And it's just a difficult situation all the way around. We've got them. There was one, like I was telling you earlier, over around Mosley Monday afternoon. We're
going to get out of the way class and go in there looking for the tracks and all, see if we can find them. So.
Yeah.
All right, so that's just something we have to be aware of.
But just bear with us because, no pun intended, because we know that we have a lot of bears that are intermingling with people, and you just can't, catch, trap, and move them all somewhere. It's an impossibility.
Okay.
It's difficult.
All right, let's get to while we still have time, the case of the month.
Real quick, I know I touched on it last month, and I didn't get involved in it because we hadn't filed charges yet.
Right, you were investigating.
Right, but I did give a little hint out there. But anyway, we did put the case together. It took about 2 months of investigating and interviews. We ended up charging 7 people, 3 of which were juveniles and 4 were adults. They were riding around in homes in Washington County 2 months ago now, at night, shooting deer on the side of the road, taking the deer, processing the deer, taking it to another individual in Holmes County who was packaging the meat up for sale and was selling, was selling the deer meat like in 20-pound bags, cut up stew, backstrap. I mean, there were big bags of meat. So this was a market type deal. It was for the dollar. It's no different than dealing in drugs as far as we're concerned. It also fuels the intent because, well, now I can make $1 on these, and they're standing on the side of the road this time of year. Anyway, we filed about 16 or 19 charges against 7 people, 3 of which were felonies for, if you sell deer meat, it's a felony if the deer was illegally taken. So these deer were illegally taken at night. So we've got felony charges and misdemeanor charges that range from sale, taking out of season, taken at night, And kudos to my Washington and Holmes County crew under Lieutenant Warren Walsingham for working this case diligently, conducting the interviews, putting the case together, going to the state attorney's office, and with positive results.
Yeah, and I think people realize how long it takes to do. You got to piece by piece. You got to just be very intricate and get everything, cross the T's and dot your I's.
And they were dumping the carcasses off of the sides of the highway, so that was another little deal that we get complaints on all the time, and so we're able to wrap and at least tie that into it to show that we will do something if we have enough information.
Okay. All right, we talked a lot about hunting. Let's just touch real quick on fishing. What do you guys see in fishing wise?
Only thing I've heard about was flounder and redfish.
Okay.
And one tip that I did hear the other day was underneath the Hathaway Bridge at nighttime.
Yeah.
Redfish, and a lot of them are within the size slot. And then flounder, 50 foot offshore if you can find a little structure, or 50 foot of water offshore if you can find some structure. I hear they're kind of stacked up around the
Now on the freshwater end, the guys up around the dams are good on
hybrids and stripers. Those guys know when that water comes over and when that bait gets in there and the time to go, and anybody else that doesn't know it can go there and fish forever. And
well, late fall seems to be a good time. Each year I start getting pictures
Right.
and we can do a story on. I can look at a year, all the pictures I get in, I can tell what's in season by just the pictures I
And
receive.
the Yokalakney Dam too. They go to catching them there, right there off 20 during that time of year. I think that's a springtime deal too there.
Yeah, spring and fall.
White meat, very good eating fish.
Good eating fish. Okay.
I just don't know how to catch them.
Well, I've been one time with a guy up there, and it's just like saltwater fishing.
It's a specialty.
Heavy rig.
Heavy rigs, and they use that live bait when they can get it.
That's
and
right. All right.
It's fun.
All right, buddy, we got to run.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Captain Ken Parramore. As always, folks, we want to wrap things up on a positive note. We want you to do something good for someone else. We always want to thank God for these beautiful sunsets and hungry fish, and you do something good for someone else, and God bless.
Thanks for joining us for Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester. Panhandle Outdoors features hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.